Great to see everybody this morning.
So let me give you all a slight update. As with your practices, there is no way you could write. There's no way the Screen Actors Guild would believe the stories that come up or the situations that come up with all of our clients. This morning, the lady that we were going to interview, Lisa, is at her place of business. They have been receiving anonymous threats for the past 2 months that have been getting steadily worse from a dark web address. With kind of a scary image that says it with details and pictures of the owners at their homes and things, and it's been getting worse. Yesterday, it was discovered that that one of their key employees who does training is actually this person. That person actually found a dead body 2 weeks ago, 2 blocks from their office. There has been an order through the office server of 2 military-grade knives. He was arrested and convicted of a stabbing years ago, and then one last year. So as of last night, there's security around her that we placed. There's police there, and she won't be here today. But you'll never know who she was. And as many of you who are shaking their heads, no, that's just terrible, or yes, in one case, one of you knows them. You can't write this stuff, but it is important that we support her. So I spent most of last night, this morning, supporting that. And it looks like they'll have him arrested within the hour. Though he's not at home, we do know where he is. So all that being said, today's conference about business owners is going to be Shelley interviewing me as a business owner. I hope, it is my hope that as you hear our trials and tribulations as businesses, some of you that know us closer or not, that you don't think less of us, but think more of us for being open. So the only problem is Steve Mancini is on the call too, so I can't talk about him without him here. So I'm gonna have to be a little kinder than I otherwise would have. Steve, you're supposed to laugh.
He's on mute. He probably is laughing.
Yes, probably so.
So thank you for joining us. I as you scramble when something like this happens, there's lots of different ways and directions that we could take this. As you well know, we have a whole cadre of presentations that we could have grabbed and pulled and did something different on the fly. And I asked Joe this morning, how do you feel about being vulnerable this morning?
So what are you supposed to say to that? So now, there's a couple of you on the call, don't laugh at me too hard, because there might be a series of advisors that have books of business with hundreds of millions of dollars, with clients of hundreds of millions of dollars, being vulnerable about how you built your business and what it came to. So I see a couple people in this call that I may pick on to do the same thing, because it might be an interesting series, we think.
Well, and so let's just go with that for a minute. Speaking of being vulnerable, when we're working with business owners, how do you tap into their vulnerability? Because that's really what helps you engage those business owners, right? And being one of those people, how do you get them to share with you on a deeper level?
I think there's two things that you included in that. One, there is something to be said when you're working with business owners to have someone on the team, the advisory team, that's also a business owner. Somebody on the advisory team who cuts checks for $100,000 or $200,000 for payroll. Somebody who's written checks into their firm to keep it alive. Somebody who's had to deal with HR issues and the other pressures that go along with it. Who is an entrepreneur like with them?
Right.
And I'm not saying you have to be one yourself, but I think it's interesting and beneficial to have a member of the team be somebody who sits in a similar situation.
Yeah.
I went to a presentation years ago where the attorney up front said, remember, you're never like your client. And as we were leaving, we were getting into each other's cars. And he was pointing out that during that presentation, he doesn't drive what his clients drive. He was surprised that there were a couple of us that drove exactly what his clients drove.
Right.
And that you can have that as a member of a team. So it's an interesting concept to have someone on the advisory team also be a business owner that has a bigger payroll, that has those pressures, or maybe that owns multiple brands.
Right.
or that travels in a similar way, because there's some sort of I get you, whether that doesn't have to be, but it is possible. The second one is vulnerability. I was talking to some of our team members that are taking over a department, and we were talking about the secret sauce to it all.
Yeah.
And some of that secret sauce was when sitting down to talk with an entrepreneur, we developed some tools for them, because somebody with the team members or another advisor would say, how do you get down into that area?
Just a very common question, right?
So we
What do
have,
you ask? What are the questions?
we have 3 areas on this one sheet to dig deeper, and then multiple questions to it. And it has nothing to do with the legal, financial, and tax technical.
Yeah.
It has to do with questions like, what is that client, who is that client serving? In their life, who it is it that they're serving?
What's driving them?
Well, what's driving them is this top concept, but how to get down to the real underneath of that is probably a series of other questions. Who are they serving? Like I just said. What is it that they need? What is it they think they're looking for? What's got them concerned? What things have they got in their head that may be true or may be a feedback loop that is just how they survive? What are the services and things that they're reaching towards that may be you or maybe somebody else? What is absent in their life, physical, mental, emotional, all, et cetera? What do they cook to? And are you willing to take them that day as they sit down to you with whatever it is going on in their soul, or you could go through your agenda? Now, I know that there is a different outcome. Yesterday, I had a rough day. There were a whole bunch of things that body blowed me at the same time.
Should we call in a couple of team members?
No, we didn't. But, you know, I had a vulnerable day in that, gosh, we know that my mom's situations have become much more challenging and what's going on. And then I found out that within departments that we have, and we have some shifted team members, were things being serviced right or not? Have people been able to adjust to that? Have we been using our processes? Are we behind? What pieces have we been missing? And it just seemed like there was an onslaught of everything.
Yeah.
And sure, this situation from yesterday was hard too. But if somebody was to counsel me and had a feeling for my soul, would they talk about their business stuff, or would they let that play through? If we sit down with a business owner, we let something play through before we go through our agenda, and they're relieved and can focus, will the outcome of the meeting be different? Now, often I'll hear people say, but we don't have enough time.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was gonna go.
I've got only this amount of time to go through this agenda, so therefore we're gonna push through.
This meeting's scheduled for an hour. How can I do that?
So I'll ask you, you work with, we've been together more than a dozen years, well, 15 years. If you see me as an entrepreneur wound up and we walk in, we have a goal to achieve, and you've got a list of things to go through, do you say, look, we've got to focus, let's hit the list, or what do you do?
Nope, I gotta let you get it off your chest. I mean, every single time. In fact, there's no way I'm getting through my list until you get it off your chest.
Why is that?
Because you can't think straight until you, yeah, I don't know if everyone's like you though. This is an animal, but the reason I said, Joe, let me interview you is because I think you're more common than we realize. I just happen to know you so well, right? And so when you're trying to engage with a business owner and someone you don't know as well, how do you get to that? I think that's what Joe was talking about, is you've got to find a way to get past that and let them share with you what's on their mind so that then they can concentrate on the conversation at hand.
I would agree with you. I would go down the path that entrepreneurial business owners, entrepreneurs, with multiple brands, multiple things going on, that have developed some level of success either on their own or they've stepped on the shoulders of their family to really develop something higher, are very quick decision makers when they've got a clear mind. Now, there are many counselors that would say a slow mind is a healthy mind. I would say I don't know the business owner that has the slow mind until they cash out and there's no more stress from the office. Then they get a slow mind. One of my favorite clients, Parker, one of Jeff's clients, I asked him one day, I said, Parker, you just seem to be much more calm. What is it? He said, Joe, an unlimited amount of money helps. And that day he was feeling like it was no big deal. I will tell you, I've been with him since where he wasn't feeling like it was no big deal
Right,
at the
right.
moment. So if we were to boil down for everybody in the audience today, helping an entrepreneur find that quiet spot is by listening and letting all this other noise come off their chest. They're very quick thinkers, they can get through it, and at some point they'll give you a sign to say, I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm good, let's go.
Right.
Let's think about it.
And what do you do when they give you that sign?
It's time to go through the agenda. I do believe that most of them would say, please take control over this meeting. I'm in control all the time. Will you be in control right now?
Uh-huh.
Tell me you've got a method by which you all have decided to use my time. So that business owner then is looking, what are we going to accomplish today? You have these things in this order. You've already thought through them. You as a team are now presenting to me or asking my opinion, but you've all done your homework. Business owners get very frustrated when the meeting is you just show up. And it looks like it's happenstance.
Yeah.
They're looking, a business owner says, I'm in control all the time. Like I said before, I'm looking for you to be in control of this. Present to me the details, the facts, the options. Let's narrow it down. Let's make a choice because I don't have time to do this again.
Right.
Or tell me that I'm going to get all this. You're going to give me time and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you then. Tell me what that is.
Tell me what the steps are.
But do not tell me what to do. Give me data so I can partner and I can use my mind with you.
So Joe, you have been challenged over the years many, many times, right? With our businesses, our family of companies, with 3 primary and 3 kind of sister companies, right? You've had lots of times when you've tried to get away from the business and then you've been pulled back in and you've tried to get away again and you've been pulled back in. And I think that's pretty common for business owners. When you're trying to get away, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're kind of lost and not sure what to focus on next because you need your next thing? And are you excited to jump back in the business? Or what is your challenge as an entrepreneur and a very A personality, right? What is your challenge on finding that next thing as well as trying to make sure businesses go forward?
So I'll break that into 2 sections.
Yeah.
And I think it's true of myself and of my friends that run some sort of organization that is profitable without them. When somebody first starts a business, they end up growing it because they make widgets really well and they're an expert widget maker and they're controlling the widget. And they realize at some point that the business is worth more for sale or the business is more profitable if they're not in the way. So we're no longer a star-based organization. So there's 2 parts in what you said. One is day-to-day. How do you get away? In other words, how do you take vacation time? Or are you not working on Mondays? Or are you off on Saturday, Sunday? Or are you plugged in every day for 2 or 3 hours? Do you check your emails, etc.? So there's some sort of balance. A very smart man told me there is no such thing as balance show in any given day. There's not even balance in a week. There might be balance inside of the year. And not trying to balance it by the week or by the day was a watershed. The other part is it's an expectation game for the people that the entrepreneur or myself love. Love my team members, love my family, love our clients, love all the rest, want to be a servant to all that.
Yes.
But how do I balance making sure they're okay? And what rises the level, not any group is more important than any particular person, but their situation rises to a level. Like yesterday, when the health event that happened to my mom over the weekend came back and there was a disagreement as to what to do with that yesterday, that rose to a higher level than the thing that was very important when I woke up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So entrepreneurs are balancing that each time. The second part is an overall with a business. Can you structure a business such that it starts to operate without you? That answer is yes.
Of course.
But inside of our souls, we want to have the S on our chest to where we can rip off our outer shirt and here comes super person that will then save the day. But every time we do that, save the day, we've actually hurt our organization. Because the organization should have been able to save the day. The organization should have been able to save the day. Albeit it wouldn't have been exactly what I or that entrepreneur would have done.
So I was just gonna ask, and what do you do when it's not what you would have done?
Well, and do you support your team or not? Do you wave off and say, I'm willing to take that hit? So is it you're gonna die on this hill for this one thing that just happened that could have been done differently? Or is it about that overall goal? And if it's negative, do you make your team feel worse?
Mhm.
Or do you use it as a learning experience? Now, the most offensive thing to an entrepreneur, to one of our clients, to me, the most offensive thing that's out there is when somebody doesn't take accountability for what's happening. When they're trying to say there's nothing I can do about it or it just happened, not here was my role in it. So we developed as a firm for our team members to interact with entrepreneurs, a 4-part apology if something goes south.
Right.
And at that point, who's serving who? In our relationship, you're in mine. If you're suffering, is it my turn to service you, or vice versa?
Mhm.
So in that 4-part apology, just like you would teach any of your children or your friends, it's admit whatever's going on that's wrong that you have a responsibility for. Number one, without any mention of any
this
outside forces.
It's important to understand this is, you gotta do it in this order.
Yes.
Admit,
So
okay?
you admit. So if something goes wrong and they're an advisor, and they try to hide it, obfuscate it, explain that it was driven by other forces, et cetera, it drives me nuts.
Now,
But
but
if
this
it-
is important for you as an advisor or your business owners when something goes wrong. Just,
Very much so. So it drives me crazy that I've got a group of advisors that I'm paying handsomely, that have agreed to work, and there's something's gone on wrong, if they hit it. But
Yeah.
how do we solve to it? How do they get me calmed down and get us in the right direction? So first and foremost, if the advisor was to say, this is what went wrong, this was our firm's role in it, without mentioning any of my faults, any of somebody else's faults, anything that happened in the economy or from God.
and not an apology yet either.
Nope, just, hey, look, this is what went wrong. Here was our role. Number two, this is what we're doing about it. Right now, we are doing these things with these milestones to get this thing done. Number three, this may not be an aberration. It might be a sign of other things. So for you and for others, here's what we're doing to make sure this problem doesn't exist somewhere else. And then from doing that with a list of milestones that are going to come back to me with a plan. Number four, hey, I'm sorry, this sucks. If I get advisor A in the morning who comes to me and says, calls, emails, Zooms, whatever, hey, I want to give you a heads up. This sucks. It's a big problem. Here was our role in it. Here's what we're doing to fix it. I'll be back to you by these times to be able to let you know what's going on. In the meantime, I've got a crew over here looking to see if anything like that has happened to others or you. Hey, I'm sorry, but I'll get back to you. They're able to do that. I'm all in. If, on the other hand, you get me advisor B in the afternoon, who I discovered something went wrong, and they're trying to tell me it was an outside force that did it, and they're trying to tell me that their role was very small, et cetera, drives me crazy. So it's those things that help get into my soul that make me vulnerable. And in fact, for advisor A in the morning that took all the blame, I'm going to pick up the phone and say, you know what? It wasn't all your fault.
It's okay. Yeah.
Advisor B, who didn't take any responsibility, I'm going to be pissed at that person for months because I don't feel like they're taking responsibility.
And what does it do for the level of trust? Right?
Well, yes. If
I mean-
if I know that I have advisor B who's going to obfuscate,
Yeah.
they're going to not suggest that it's really their deal. That person, my level of confidence in them, of their having my back, because remember, I, as a business owner or as an affluent family member or as an entrepreneur, whatever, am serving my clan and I'm hiring others around me to help me serve my clan. If I know somebody has my back, they're willing to take responsibility for what's going on and help me deal with it, that person is worth 10 times more to me than the person that's going to not take blame.
Yeah. So we have 6 minutes left. Over the years, there's been lots of challenges, like we've been talking about, that have caused you to go back into the business and back out and in and out and in and out. What's your single biggest regret?
I was talking, you and I were filling something out for a friend yesterday over business or not. I made the comment, my biggest regret is I didn't do certain things sooner. So I teased my wife. The only regret I have with my wife is we dated a long time, then we were, et cetera, et cetera. And we were friends a long time before that. I regret we didn't do it sooner. I regret we didn't get married sooner.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, inside of my gut, I've known certain moves had to be made, but I didn't do it sooner because I was trying to accommodate someone else, because I was trying to protect someone, because I felt that we were too busy, because that person was overflowed. These decisions that I had, I didn't do it sooner. And had I had a little bit more of somebody to counsel me, to help me think through it, I would have done it sooner.
Mhm.
So the second part about that is surrounding myself with people that help me think through what's going on in my soul. Because as entrepreneurs, we feel very, very alone. Like we have to make these choices all by ourselves. And there are a lot of people volunteering, but they all have an answer guide. It's for their benefit. Who do I have in my world that helps me think through something, a place to think?
Yeah.
That isn't out for their axe to grind, for their benefit. In fact, are willing to suggest things that are not good for them. What provides that? So I think earlier on, rather than trying to be the superhero driving, et cetera, I would have sought out stronger people that helped me think through things that had a strong personality.
Yeah.
Not somebody who got me more upset and who could calm me down, but also someone who questioned me, who was the great aunt who would say, how is that working for you? Hey, I just wanted to find out, how are you doing? Let's talk about, if that's it, let's talk about that for a while. And if I said, no, we're here for this in the meeting, they said, well, are you really going to be able to think about the subject we have for today unless you get over this? And who would call me later and just say, hey, I've been thinking about you. Did you think more about that? You want to have a cup of coffee? Just the offer of, can I have a cup of coffee and talk through it with you, is worth the world and slows me down and helps me make a choice, yet alone the conversation.
No other motive, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of motive,
Yes.
motive is a big driver in a lot of these conversations.
I would say in the counseling work we do, most of the dysfunction is driven because of a misunderstanding of fact.
Yep.
So one party or both has a misunderstanding of underlying fact, and they believe that the other person has had an action, but it's actually a reaction to a misunderstanding. And it gives you a moment where you're, wow, if they overreacted, maybe they aren't so bad. The second one is a misunderstanding of either what motivates me or a misunderstanding of what's motivating the person across. And when that new data comes in, that there's a misunderstanding of either fact or motive, it causes you to say, wait a minute, I shouldn't be this upset. I shouldn't be this worked up. What should I do? Oh my God. Even to the point where now you have, instead of frustration with somebody else, it goes to empathy for somebody else.
Yeah.
And is it fair to suggest that that should be a two-way street? Or is it my role as the entrepreneur, or is it your role as the advisor?
Yeah.
Or should it be both?
And what about when we're working with families, right? When we're doing our family business conflict work, how often when we get in those retreats, or actually let me back up, when we start to do the pre-work for the retreats, how often is it that we have a misunderstanding that is driving the entire conflict?
Sure. So in what Shelley's talking about right now, we have a section of Strategic Mancini that does what some may call governance work or family business conflict, where we do 2-day Hope is a Great Conversation program. And usually they've been sent to us because somebody says there's no hope. My brother and I have no hope. My father and I have no hope.
There's no way we're going to get along.
And there's some sort of family unit that's going to see us. The most recent one was husband and wife that are running a manufacturing company here. And it's their 2 boys that were brought in. We've had brothers and sisters like the gal that was going to be here today, who both were running, but dad had passed away. And in 5 years, things had not gone well. And I would agree with what you're suggesting, Shelley. People come being very upset, painting themselves that they have to act this way, and painting the other person that they're always this other way. and suggesting a set of facts in the past that could only be seen from one perspective. And now that we've done it for years and years, what you often find is what you're suggesting. Oh my goodness, there's a misunderstanding here. How many others are there? And everybody thinks that the other person has been a bad actor as opposed to a bad reactor. So that's a different way to see it.
Right.
And it offers an opportunity to let people get things off their chest. Because you can't point it out right away. By the way, your head is wrong. You've been thinking about this all the wrong way. Really,
You just don't
your
understand.
fiance and your son are better, are right, you're wrong, you're seeing it wrong. That's not gonna go very far. But if you can create an environment, let them get it all off their chest.
Yeah.
And then suggest, could there be another way to see this? The whole room gets to blame the misunderstanding, and then they get to find their alignment and then move along. And it's like watching popcorn pop, because all these ideas in their head of what they saw in the past as this bad, rotten kernel now pops into this beautiful thing where it wasn't so bad, they were trying to help. Can't tell you the number of people that say, oh my God, is that all you needed? Is that what you really thought? No.
Right.
And then, of course, for you, if I can tease you, as soon as the curmudgeon old male entrepreneur
Oh, God.
or the curmudgeon old female entrepreneur breaks down and gets emotional, you cry every time.
Every single time. I can't smell it.
So our hope today from this conversation is that there's a little, in a series that we're doing, it gives you a little glimpse into how you work with entrepreneurs. How do you work with successful families? How do you deal with the different pieces? And when you've scheduled time with them, is it your job to go through your agenda and get the decision you need? Or is it your job, have you chosen to give sage wisdom? Have you chosen to be a place where they can think? And do you accept them when they come in? If they're wound up or they've got another major thing on their mind, do you dismiss it quickly to get to your list? Or do you deal with that? And if there's not enough time, exactly how much time would it take to make this decision if the person in front of you wasn't suffering, if they had a clear mind?
And can you not always schedule another meeting? You know
Isn't
what,
that the truth?
I mean, so you have an hour scheduled and the conversation goes a completely different direction. How valuable is that?
Well, to me,
Right? I mean, that's
if-
gold.
if you took it down the other direction and I knew you didn't get your agenda done because you helped me, I'm gonna reach out to you and whatever agenda you want, I'm in.
You're giving me another 3 hours if I want.
I'm in because I can trust you. You help me. And there are lots of people that say they want to help. And in my life, there's a whole list of them. But they've all got their needs and their requirements and their fears and the agenda they need to get through. So I know their advice has a skew.
And just to close on a note, I know some people don't necessarily work with only business owners. Some people don't work with only affluent clients. We work with all types, right?
Sure.
Does this apply to any level of clients?
It applied to my daughter making her decision for college this weekend.
Okay.
How do I not be the one that's driving the agenda, but instead the one, and as she digs and digs and digs, but Dad, what do you think? When I say, I'll help you think through yours, but what's going to feed my soul isn't important. It's your life. Here are the variables. And help her think through the variables. It even helped with that. And if I was to overextend, it also helped with my wife, who really wanted this college to be the decision. And she was pretending like she wasn't driving to that, but all the subliminal things were driving down to that point. So what do you do about it? How do you train yourself to facilitate another without your agenda being more important, so they know you're the place that they can go to for a choice? And whatever it is you're going to help them with becomes ease then. Becomes ease. So I think it applies all the way across, from somebody that has to invest $50,000 to somebody who's considering selling a business, to somebody considering getting married, going to college, etc. These skills that you all have are applicable across your life. If you think you know the answer, it's the only answer, and you have to convince somebody. If you think you have to get through your agenda, that's a great opportunity to go down the hall, go to the bathroom, wash your hands, and say, why am I really here? Am I being pressured to do this, or should I give a greater opportunity to? And as you're training the people in your organizations, as you're mentoring other people in your organization or other advisors, do you mentor them to just the technical, or do you mentor them to create a place to think?
All
So-
right.
With all that, thank you all very much. Some of my friends I haven't seen in a while, good to see you too. Eileen, nice to see you. And Mercy and Mr. Huddleston, thank you very, very much, Larry. I saw Jeff drop off. For those of the rest of you of our friends, thank you. Our next one will be with another business owner.
Yep, it's two, I don't know what the date is, I'm sorry. I should be prepared with that, huh?
Sure. we'll
2
get it
months
out
from
there.
now, you'll get invitations. Some of you are pre-registered. Thank you for obliging us off on this little
Tangent?
different direction than what you expected this morning. I hope it was still valuable.
And you were
And
very kind to me. You didn't dig into all my idiosyncrasies. Thank
you
you.
talked too much.
Yeah,
I had other
yeah.
questions that I didn't get to.
I would also suggest that we have these in a tape series set. There are a variety of them on the SCI website that are a half an hour each with a variety of business owners from second generation taking over, older generation transferring down, siblings not being able to creating
All
something
kinds
from
of stuff,
nothing.
yeah.
You can get many of them. I would take notes from those different ones for little gems that you'd find to help build your practice.
All right.
Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.